Hi, this is Dan Buller, retired electronics engineer, back on the front deck of my houseboat. Potato season's still here, but it rains, so the trucks can't go get the potatoes, so thank God for that. But you know, I'm not opposed to potatoes. I just don't like to hear them roaring by my house. I want to tell you about what happened with these guys over at, what's it called? It's electrical engineering Stack Overflow, that's what it is. That's the second Stack Overflow I've been kicked off of. I'm getting pretty good at this. You know what works every time? You want to get kicked off an electronic bulletin board, ask them what are the phases of a distorted sine wave. A, they won't have a clue, and B, they will think you're being a smartass. And let's remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The poor guy who invented the infinite improbability drive was lynched because one thing they really couldn't stand was a smartass. And so I kind of keep that in mind. I've been kicked off of more bulletin board sites, not because of anything I say, although I can be a rude motherfucker, okay? I can be a rude son of a bitch. But I generally am nice to people that I don't know. So, you know, when I am talking to people online and stuff, I'm generally pretty civil. But I ask them questions that they don't understand or they never heard that might be answered, right? Like, what are the phases of the harmonics from a distorted sine wave? It seems odd. They can't measure it with a spectrum analyzer or a scope. I told you that. They can't measure it. And so they never even thought about it. And, you know, they get offended because in, like, the description of moron harmonics for morons, I say, don't listen to anybody else, they're all idiots. And somebody on this site was upset about that. Stack Overflow, electrical engineering, they were insulted that I would say something like that. But they are fucking idiots. They spend all their time surfing the web for porn, and they think they know something about electronics, and between jacking off in front of the computer, they decide, well, you know, let's see if we can rip this guy a new one. So here's this guy, Dave Tweed. And in response to one of my posts, or one of my answers on their site, I showed this picture. And it's pretty cool because it shows the wave that you measure with an FFT and the clipping, if you clip off the top, the bottom, or whatever, if you clip any portion of a wave, if you remove any portion of a perfect sine wave, you'll get harmonics. And if you look at the clipping, whatever it is you remove, whatever, the top, the bottom, the middle, whatever, that spectrum, the spectrum of that thing will exactly match the spectrum of the wave minus the fundamental. These guys, they've never even thought about that. How did I do all this stuff? Well, I did it with Excel spreadsheets, and like I said, I've spent years, you know, I worked on electronics for all kinds of things, and I worked on Excel for a long time. Way back in 1990s, I was doing some work with a guy from ISD, Tin Lam. Great guy, really nice guy. Tin almost never even used the DSP functions on the Axiom STS 3000. He used Excel, okay? And he would capture the data into Excel, and this was back in the 90s. Now, if you're not familiar with ISD, they're the guys that make that chip in the little greeting card where you can record your message. And there was no apps engineer on the West Coast for the STS 3000. And ISD decided, that is TIN, decided that he wanted an STS 3000 tester. And so I trained him, and then because no one else was on the West Coast to help him, I was his apps engineer. And Tin and I worked together on all kinds of really cool stuff. And it was great. And I learned a lot about Excel from him. So I've been doing Excel forever. And I'll recite another example where I was working at Tektronix, and me and my boss, he interviewed me and he thought, God, this guy's the most knowledgeable person who ever worked here. He actually told me that. You're the most knowledgeable person who ever worked at Tektronix. That's saying something. So he did. He was working on we were working on a Trident missile program. The Trident missile program, which carries nuclear weapons, and we had 3 people to work on it, me and 2 other guys, and well, 1 gal and 1 guy, and the boss asked for us to think about ways to present the data to the Navy guys who were going to be there for a big meeting. And so everybody tried their hand at summarizing the data in an Excel spreadsheet. And it was complicated because there were like 30 devices that you had to do, and you had to do the mins and the maxes and everything. Because you're looking at every test point in the test program for a device that goes in a Trident missile. And he came over to see what I had. And I showed him, and he looked at it, and he frowned. He was so angry. And then his expression changed a little bit. And he's like, God damn, this is pretty good. You know, I think you got it. And so he gave it to me. I got everybody else, they threw their shit away, and I got my stuff was presented to the Navy for the Trident missile program. And so, you know, let's just hope that when the president pushes that button, those missiles go where they're supposed to go. I don't have any confidence in it at all. Tektronix, those guys are idiots. Raytheon, oh God, don't even get me started. But anyway, I've been doing Excel forever. And so here this Dave Tweed guy on Stack Overflow, electrical engineering Stack Overflow, he was commenting about this thing that I showed you, and that the harmonic signature matches the chunk that you removed and the actual wave. And he says, I'm not sure what you're trying to get at, but it's kind of obvious that the bottom wave is simply a sine wave with the top subtracting from it. Subtraction is a linear operation. A, what a dumb fuck. He assumed that I use subtraction. I don't have a problem with subtraction. I do all kinds of things with subtraction. But that's not how I made that wave. That's not at all how I made that wave. It's a good thing I put out the sunshade, huh? And I got my heater going here, so excuse the noise. So, so naturally both would have the same spectrum with the signs inverted, something your magnitude plots don't show. My magnitude plots don't show it, fucker, because the magnitude doesn't have a sign, okay? Do the goddamn math, okay? If you do an FFT, you're going to get everything in rectangular format. What you're going to do is you're going to do a polar conversion. And the polar conversion gives you the phases, which Dave Tweed never fucking looked at, and it's going to give you the magnitude. The magnitude, which means it's a positive number no matter what the sign no matter what the sign is of the thing that you're looking at. The magnitude is unsigned, but the phase is in the phase portion. That's why you can ignore in a magnitude when you look at polar. The magnitude you can ignore the sign. The phase tells you whether it's positive or negative. That shows up in the DC bin too. It's pretty cool. So anyway, I got kicked off this site. They gave me a 7-day suspension, but I told them I'm never coming back. So, you know, it's not like they can teach me anything. Not a goddamn thing. I'm an expert in everything. I mean, and I'm so sick of that shit. I've been doing electronics since I was 19, and now I'm 65. I'm fucking tired of it, you know? I'm really tired of it. And so what am I doing with my life? I'm spending all my time arguing with these cocksuckers who sit around jacking off in front of their computer thinking they're some kind of geniuses. Well, go back to jacking off, guys, because you're nobody. You're fucking nobody. I'm the guy who figured all this shit out. Right? The other thing that gets them real upset is if you show them this picture, where I I'm clipping the top of a wave off, and I'm moving the clipping up and down from like 60 degrees, 61 degrees, up to 64, 65 degrees. And so as I do that, the spectrum changes. And these guys have already said, oh, that's just an artifact of the FFT. Oh, so the FFT is not accurate. Well, you know, you should have told me that before I used it on Intel processors, on F-16 fighter heads-up displays, on analog amplifiers, on DACs, on ADCs. You know, out there in the world, there are millions of times a day my code runs to validate parts on testers. Millions of times a day my code is running. I'm not a fucking idiot like these guys are. So you sit around, jack off in front of their screens, they think they know something, they don't know a goddamn thing. So I'm not going back. I'm going to leave these guys in ignorance, but you know, I always have hope, you know, that somebody will look at this stuff and go, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. But, you know, and look at my reviews on distortion. I've got at least one 5-star review, a couple I think, and Harmonix has one 5-star review. I do some kick-ass work. Now, if you don't believe me, fine, I don't fucking care, you know? Go back and jerk off in front of your computer. I don't care, but I'm the guy who knows, and I'm going to go to my grave knowing that I know the truth, and these guys are just fucking idiots. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for your time. This is Gambler. See you later.